Hi, this is Nancy Yearout, and welcome to my show, High Road to Humanity. In every episode, I tell you powerful true stories filled with great wisdom that you can use in your own life as you strive for a higher road to travel. My featured guests will have their own unique stories to tell that enlighten your mind and your soul. So kick back, relax, and learn the secret to success when you take the high road.
First touch, strong connection, it lays deep in your soul.
Hi, this is Nancy Yearout, and welcome to High Road to Humanity. And Joshua Shapiro is here today, and he's going to give us his take on the flat Earth. And this is going to be a fabulous show, you guys. I'm not going to stop it for the podcast. We're just going to take it all the way through because Joshua has a fabulous presentation that he's going to give us today. The only thing I want to say real quick is a lot of people have been emailing me about land and houses, and do I bless them? And yes, I do. If you're in New Mexico, I'll actually come to your property. If you're not, I will do it remotely, or you can always fly me wherever you want me to. But yes, I will do blessings for your land and for your homes. Okay. So, and just email me, nancyyearout@gmail.com, or go to my website, nancyyearout.com. Now, if you don't know who Joshua Shapiro is, he's been involved with the crystal skulls since 1983 when he saw one made out of amethyst in Northern California. And he felt such a strong connection with this artifact that since that time, he's devoted his life and resources to sharing the best information he can about the crystals and other things. He's been on the show talking about Tartaria, and we had tons of people who watched that show. Now he's back, and he's here to talk about the flat Earth. Welcome back to High Road to Humanity, Joshua.
Thank you so much, Nancy. I have been practicing for this show in my mind for a long time, so now I'm here. I'm a little bit nervous.
Oh,
And
don't be
also,
nervous.
okay, well, not really, but it kind of feels like it. And also too, because, this is really my first official talk about flat Earth. And so let me just explain to the viewers, what have I been doing and why am I getting involved in it? And then a release statement, because this is another one of those subjects that it just affects people very deeply. They either want nothing to do with it, or they're very excited about it, or they want to learn about it. So as if you watch the Tartaria interview that I did with Nancy, I talked about this gentleman named Iwar Anand. He keeps putting out these videos. He actually has a new video that just came out. What is it called? Oh God, I can't even remember because I'm too much into flat Earth, but it's the Lost History series, Lost History of Earth, part 2. So he came out with the first, chapter of that.
Okay.
So in the one he did on Tartaria, he talked about the flat Earth, and it was kind of like at this time, and I'm watching this back in April and May, I'm thinking like, I don't know if I agree or disagree, but there sure sounds like there are a lot of people that are into it. So at some point I should check it out. So
Right.
being a typical Aries, I don't do anything lackluster. If I say I'm checking it out, I'm checking it out. And then the next thing I know, now I'm writing a free ebook about this. And then the next thing I know, as I'm writing the free ebook, which is not anywhere near done yet, so hopefully November, December, I'm going like, this is going to be hundreds of pages. Who's going to want to read this thing? But I have to do it this way because the subject of the flat Earth is not a fantasy or a simple thing. There's evidence, there's scientific data behind it. It's absolutely totally incredible. So what I want the viewers to understand before I go into the slides is I'm not here to convince anyone that this is going to be your truth, okay? I'm just going to present to you a portion of what's going into this free ebook. And somebody said, you're doing a 300 or 400 page book and you're doing it for free. Shouldn't you get paid or something? No, I'm not going to do that because number one, a great deal of the information that's going into this book is coming from other sources.
Right.
What I'm kind of doing in this book is I'm kind of like your host, and I'm putting my comments in there to make sure, because this is the gift I have when I write. I can feel if people are getting what I'm talking about. So if there's something being said and I go, it's not totally clear, okay, I got to put my comment in there to try to bridge it together. So it's kind of a combination of my writing and explaining things. But I'm organizing it, I think, in a very unique manner. I'm trying to take people through, and you'll see this in the presentation. I'm going to be basically mirroring what I'm doing in the book. It's take people through from the beginning. Now, you had David Weiss on your
I
show about a
did.
month then, and
Yeah.
he is a fireball. He is totally dedicated into this, and
Yes.
I in no way am trying to come behind him and say, I'm an expert like him or nothing. No, I'm just your brother, and I'm an Aries, and I want to know the truth. And I'm asking questions that I even asked David some questions after your show.
Yeah.
He answered me via email.
Right.
Couple of things that he didn't talk about that I'm having trouble trying to get answers from, even from the top people. And there was one that he answered, and then I saw he was on another radio show a couple of days ago, and he said this one point, which I'm going to go over. So I guess he agrees with this. So I want everyone to know what you should probably do with this show is, if you didn't see David first, watch what I talk about and then go back and you'll get what he's saying. Because a lot of times he'll make these one-line comments and I know exactly what he's saying, but the person who's not familiar will go, what is he talking
Will
about?
not understand. I see. Well, I'm really excited that you've put this together. And I just want to thank you, Joshua, because you are really contributing a lot to humanity by doing that. I mean, there are so many. I watched Flat Earth Dave and I sat here and talked to him. And I have to tell you, he really did convince me. And I've seen the maps on your presentation and they just blow my mind. So I'm really excited. So I'll let you do your thing.
So you want me to start the slide?
Yeah, go for
Okay,
it. Go for it,
so
Joshua.
we're just going to do this one thing before I start.
Okay.
If you don't want to know nothing about flat Earth and you're absolutely convinced that it cannot be true, do not go past this point. Because if you do, I think there's going to be a couple of things I'm going to talk about that are going to make you think. If you're totally open, you're a beginner, great. If you're an advanced person, I try to throw some things in there too. So just look at it like a sharing. What we should be having now are debates. We shouldn't be having cancel culture where we say this subject you can't talk about, like Tartaria. It's totally wiped out from history. So that's a taboo subject. Flat Earth, just a little background on what I learned from Mark Sargent, who was one of the first persons to come out. Also, I want to recognize before I forget, because I'm using some of his material, gave me permission, Eric Dubay. So it's like Mark Sargent, Eric Dubay were two of the key people. 2014, 2015, they came out. Up until about 2017, they didn't have any interference. And once 2017 hit, they start getting their YouTube channels shut down. I mean, if you go on YouTube and you look on Flat Earth, what's going to come up? The guys that are going to make fun of all of this, that aren't going to serious, that are going to do it. Now, there's one other thing I have to say so it's clear. So I'm getting into my writing and what I'm writing to people. Heliocentric system versus geocentric system. I need to define this before I go in. So when I say it, people get it. Heliocentric is what we were taught in school. The sun, all the planets surrounding it. That's heliocentric. The sun is in the center. Geocentric means the earth is the center and everything in the sky is moving around us. Okay. So keep that distinction in place. Okay. So hold on a second here. I got to share my screen.
How exciting.
Wait. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So I'm there, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Flat Earth.
Okay, hold on a second. Let me put it into a slide. The problem is when I get old sometimes and I'm nervous, my hand shakes. And that's not good. Get out of here. Don't do that. Let's try it this way. Come on, just go down one.
There you go.
Oh, I didn't know. F5 would have done it too. Okay, we're there. I'm so excited. So everyone listening, this is my first official public attempt to explain flat Earth. Okay, okay, thank you. So I call it fact or fiction because, it's up to you. Again, I'm not trying to convince anyone, but let's look at some key things. I think there's some key things that you can go back with after this and you can look it up for yourself, or you can contact me later. Okay, if especially you want to get on the list for the free ebook, you like what you're hearing, then send me an email and you'll see that email towards the end. Okay, now I wanted to start with this slide because this is a map that was created by a man named Gleason in 1892. Now, if you watch David Weiss, I think he showed the interview with Ruth, who's this
Mhm.
100-year-old lady. Well,
Mhm.
when she was in school in the 1920s, because I guess she was born in 1918, they were teaching flat Earth. So this was the map that they were showing people that was of the Earth, probably until the 30s or 40s. Definitely when NASA came, then it's game over. Now we're in heliocentric system with NASA, okay? So this is the map. Now let me explain a couple of characteristics here that are key, because it's going to come up in our presentation. So besides the fact that everything looks flat and the layout of the continents is sort of recognizable, Australia seems kind of weird. You're number one going to notice there's this white circle all the way around. So
Right.
Nancy, you're out. You know what that is, right?
I'm not sure. Is that the dome?
No, that's the ice wall of Antarctica.
Oh, it's the ice. Oh, okay. All the way around
All the way around. So in other words, Antarctica is at the outer edge of this flat circular disc
of
that we live on.
everything. Well,
Okay.
what's in the very center?
At the very center is the North Pole. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So you got it. So the North
Yeah.
Pole is at the very center,
Okay.
and the ice wall, which is all Antarctica, is at the outer edge. Okay. We haven't got
Okay.
to the dome yet. I have a picture of that too. So this
Okay.
is a picture of flat Earth.
Okay.
Okay. Now, when you're on flat Earth, directions don't work the same. I'm not sure if they talked about this or not, but I thought
No.
this was kind of cool.
Okay.
So at the North Pole, and I don't want to give it away, we'll say there's a magnetic source. That's all I'm going to say for the moment. So if you have a compass, it's going to point to the north. It's going to point to the North Pole. So that's north. Okay. But that's center of the entire planet. That's what north means. And south, as crazy as it sounds, is every direction away from the North Pole is south. The whole entire circle, outer circle, you're going south. Okay.
Okay.
And
Okay.
east and west are circular. So let me think here. So east would be counterclockwise and west will be clockwise.
Okay.
So that's the directions from flat Earth. Now I know it sounds totally crazy and weird and the whole thing, but that's how you determine directions that you're traveling on a flat Earth. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So now here's the next one. Now here we have the dome that you were asking about.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go through very briefly here, what are the elements of the flat Earth, but then I'm going to go into more detail into the presentation. So you have, now again, I'm just saying this is the flat Earth model. I'm not assuming that anybody's agreeing with me or they're saying, hey, this looks crazy or whatever. Just, enjoy the ride here. Let's see where we go with it. Let's see what else we talk about. So we have this flat circular disc that we saw with the ice wall at the outer edge. Then in this guy, now this is something I don't think Dave totally explained, but this is what he was showing you. The sun and the moon are within the dome. The sun is not 93 million miles away, and the moon is, I think they say it's like, 300,000 miles or whatever it is. They are not. They are, and I'm going to wait till I get to the slide to tell you, because I've kind of got confirmation how up high. Oh, I'm so excited. How high up in the sky is it? And how big are they actually? Because they're not that big, but they're in the sky and they're rotating around the Earth. And they explain to you the seasons, and I'll talk a little bit about that again. And the moon is rotating around the Earth. Okay, we have the sky, we have the clouds, but you know what also could be underneath the dome? Stars.
Yes.
And all the planets that they say are in our solar system are under the dome. But I'm going to wait till I get to that part, because they're not what you think. And I think the bright light at the very top is supposed to be representing Polaris. Now, this is the thing I cannot get an answer to exactly, but I think we have to say that there are stars under the dome and there are stars outside of the dome. Okay. I think it's both, but this I can't prove. And I've asked some of the experts I've talked to, and they're not totally sure. And you see, the problem that we have is we as researchers, we don't have billions and billions of dollars so we can create levitation craft and we can go up into the sky by the dome and look around and look at the sun and look at the moon
Mm-hmm.
and look at the stars and everything. We can only talk about what we can see, or some of these guys apparently have whistleblowers. Okay.
Right. Right.
Because if this is the way our world is, somebody knows the whole thing. Okay.
Yeah.
They
And you're
know.
going to talk about some of that with some of the airline pilots and stuff, I
Oh,
think, aren't you?
yes, I am. I'm
Okay.
going to.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
So this is in essence, oh yeah, and then there's sprites too, but I'll talk about it when I get later. So these are like the components. And then that's not even talking about what's under the ground. Okay. Because one of the persons I've spoken to, and this makes sense to me, if we have this dome over us, we have to have the dome underneath us as well. It has to totally cover everything. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So again, at this point, I'm not trying to explain. I'm just saying this is the model. This is what the model says is going on flat Earth. Okay. So let's
Okay.
go to the next one. All right. So now the first thing we want to talk about is we were taught in school that we live on a round planet, and spherical planet. It has a curvature to it, and that the what do they call it? Not the diameter, but the radius. I have to
Okay.
remember all these technical. In other
Okay.
words, the distance around at the equator is around 25,000 miles.
Okay.
Now, we have something called geometry. Geometry is an accepted science. And if you have a curved planet, then by geometry, and I'm going to explain the formula that I'm producing below, the curvature of the Earth is going to prevent you from seeing things in a distance. Does that make sense?
Right.
Okay. All right. In other words, if the world is curved, after you go, some people are saying 2 or 3 miles or whatever, and the curvature of the Earth is going to block you from seeing, what's far in the distance. But if you actually, well, you could actually do this. If you go to a big body of water, whether it's a lake, a sea, or an ocean, and you look for a boat that's out in the distance at 10 miles, it should be impossible to see that, right? Because
Right.
the curvature of the Earth is going to block it. But if I take one of these high power new cameras, like they talk about the Nikon N900, now they have a 950, 1000, and I zoom in on that boat that's 10 miles away, I'm going to see it straight on, totally clear. How
Right.
is that possible if we live on the Earth? Now, there was a man named Rowbotham in England who did this experiment I'm going to explain in 1839 to prove that the Earth cannot be spherical. It has to be flat. And basically what the formula says is for every 8 inches that you travel away from yourself times the number of miles squared is how many feet or inches of curvature there's going to be. This is based on geometry. This is not some
Random thing.
random thing or formula
Yeah.
somebody's coming up with to try to prove, hey, this has to be, crazy. We can't be on a flat Earth. So in this experiment that Rowbotham did is he found a channel in England that's straight for 20 miles. So what he did is he went into the water, he put his telescope 8 inches above the water, and he had this friend rowing his boat straight away, 6 miles away where there's a bridge over the canal. And when he looked for his friend, he was able to see him clear as day, straight away. He didn't have to turn his telescope up or do anything. He was right there straight away. Okay.
Right.
So,
He
for
proved
example,
it back in 1839 then.
1839. And the thing is like, for example, I'll use another example I heard of. Now, this didn't happen to me, but I used to live in Chicago. There are people who are across Lake Michigan and Michigan who say that at different times they can see the entire city of Chicago, and that's like 59, 60 miles away. That should be physically impossible.
Impossible. Yeah.
Physically impossible. So this is the math, and there are so many examples of this. But again, there are going to be people who are going to say, this is what they said on the news about the thing in Chicago. Some kind of air inversion reflected it. But does that mean for every single thing that we ever try to look at, whether it's 5 miles away, or there's some people who say you can see things that are 100 or 200 miles away, that's always going to explain it? I don't think so. So this is something that to me is the most simple proof that we're living on a flat earth, is this experiment that this man did. So there is a book that I talk about, and I can't remember the name of it, but it's in my free ebook, where this is where I first saw it. This was written in 2016 on flat earth. So this is, let's say, one consideration. Now, another thing that Dave kept doing, I don't know if people were recognized, he had this picture like this behind him when he was talking to you, remember? And what he was trying to show you is if there are amateurs who will do the high altitude balloons, which are probably helium.
Right.
This particular one, according to, I got it from Eric Dubai, said it's 20,000 feet in the sky. They've gotten one up, I saw a video of, that was 120,000 feet, which is about between 24, 25 miles in the sky. That is higher than the planes fly. The planes only goes 35 to 40,000 feet, which is 7 or 8 miles up. Doesn't sound like much, but that's quite high. And you can see from this picture, and again, they're bringing up cameras on the high altitude balloons, and they're showing a flat horizon, a totally flat horizon. There is no curvature. Okay. Now it's also saying the Earth doesn't spin. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but this is just focusing on the plot thing. Repeatedly, these amateurs are sending up these balloons and they're seeing the same thing. So are all of these people crazy? Are somebody paying them to doctor these pictures? Or is this what they're really seeing? And they just continue to see this. But I have more than this. I'm just showing you little bits and pieces here to look at the total picture, because, you know, it's not just one thing. It's not just the measurement that this English guy did, or it's not just these pictures. There's more to it.
It's a combination. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
otherwise there's no way I could fill a book with 300 or 400 pages with information. Okay, now let's look at planes and talk about if we live on flat Earth or around Earth.
Right.
Okay, so again, if we live on a globe, the plane will have to dip, you know, like if it's following the globe, it has to dip down in order to follow the curvature of the planet.
Yeah.
So I had this friend, Shirley Jai, she's a Korean. She says she's a flat earther, but she's also very religious. But there are things in the Bible. I'm going to show you one thing before I finish from the Bible, where she talked to an airline pilot. And I did the whole conversation between them. And I have the video if people want to watch. And she kept asking the pilot, when you're flying the plane, I want to ask you a question. When you're flying the plane, do you have to dip it down? Do you have to make
Adjustments.
adjustments while you're flying?
Yeah.
And he said, well, you know, for the wind or weather, we might have to do adjustment. Well, we don't have to do any dipping down, and we don't have to you know, really make adjustments. We're just kind of flying there. So what I'm saying here is, and what this is trying to show you, is if there was a curve on the left, this is what it would look like in the sky. You would see planes kind of like angling down. We never see that. They're totally flat over us, flying from their destination. Or the other thing that could happen is if they don't follow the curvature of the Earth, they could literally fly out into space. You know, they're going to be going away from the direction that they want to go. Now, this isn't even talking about the revolution of the planet. Okay. So this is, again, just some things to think about and to consider about if it's round or if it's flat. If it's flat, then they're just flying straight where they have to go. Okay. They're just flying like we're accustomed to. You know, you're going from New York to Los Angeles. You're just going to fly right there. You may have some weather challenges, and the plane may bump up and down, but you're just going to be flying at a certain altitude, flat across the Earth. You're not going to be curving down, bending down to do the curvature of the Earth.
Right. And when you look at the routes too, and he talked about that, Dave talked
That's
about
right.
when you look at the actual routes that the planes take, you know, if the Earth was round, they would take it to completely different route than if it's flat, and they take the flat route.
Exactly.
They do.
So, okay. So this is what this is the other thing. So I have in the ebook, I was able to find like about, I don't know, 7 or 8 pilots who were willing to speak about this, flying planes, 35, 40,000. And when they were asked about the horizon, they said, yeah, it's totally flat up there. Now, why would they say that if it isn't true? Now, let's look at if the Earth is spinning. Okay, this is another aspect of flying a plane. So if the world is spinning around, they say there's something called, I think it's pronounced the Coriolis effect. And
Okay.
what the Coriolis effect has to do with is if something is spinning, you have to make a compensation for the rotation and the spin of the Earth. And I forget if it's to the right in the northern hemisphere and the left, or it's the reverse. But when I looked it up on the internet for the definition, that's what they said it was. But again, if you talk to the pilots, are you compensating when you're up in the sky
Yeah.
for the Coriolis? No, we're not doing anything like that. We're just flying right to where we got to go.
Oh my
So
God.
they're not experiencing this in any way. Again, no dipping of their planes down due to the curvature of Earth. Now, here's the other thing you have to think about, which Eric Dubay pointed out. So if the Earth is rotating about 1,000 miles an hour and you're flying above it, okay, the speed of the Earth in one of the directions, I have to see which one it is. When flying east, revolving so if you're flying east, you literally, now think about this, you would have to hover your plane and wait for the Earth to catch up to where you got to go because
Oh
it's
yeah.
rotating faster than you're flying.
What a ruse. This is a ruse. You know that, right?
It's rotating faster. And if you're going the other way, instead of taking 5 hours to get to
Oh my
Los Angeles, it
gosh.
should only take 2 because you're getting, 1,000 miles plus 600 miles that
Oh
you're
my
flying,
gosh. It's
right?
like
So it should
crazy.
take 2 hours. Now, somebody else might say, well, gravity's holding the plane so that you can't do that. What kind of gravity's holding the plane? That doesn't make any sense. You're above the world, and if it's rotating and you're not going as fast as it's rotating, then it's either taking you faster or you got to wait till it catches up.
Right.
That's logical. So these are
Mhm.
just some things to think about related to airplanes. Of course, you're going to find people on this last point, they'll come up with some explanation for it, but I don't get it. How can that be? Gravity can't just hold a plane in the sky. It would stop then. It wouldn't move at all. So, and it's got these jets that are moving it. Why does it have jets if it can use the gravity of the Earth to move it? So we have a logical challenge here, especially on this last point. Okay, it's getting good now. All right, now gravity. Now this is a whole other thing. Okay, so we all think, okay, the apple dropped on Newton's head and he figured out there's this force. So let's talk about the heliocentric model of gravity. Just,
Okay.
talk about it very briefly. So the whole concept of gravity from the heliocentric model is the Earth is a much greater mass than we are. So the gravity of the mass is holding us to the surface of the Earth. And it doesn't matter if we're on the upside or the underside, doesn't make any difference. We're being held. Okay, but there's a problem with this because they're saying, and again, Eric Dubay pointed this out, so it makes perfect sense, that gravity is also holding all the planets in their orbits around the sun. Now think about this. The sun has got to be a greater mass than the Earth.
Mm.
So if gravity is pulling us to the surface from the center of the Earth to stay on the surface of the Earth, gravity should be pulling the Earth either out of its orbit or crashing it into the sun. That would be the same force. These are two different forces. They just say, oh, it's all gravity. But they're not working the same way. They're working differently.
Right.
Similarly, the moon should crash into the Earth because we're much bigger than the moon. But that doesn't happen. So there has to be something else going on. These two, as I say, are inconceivable. So here's what the flat earthers say how gravity works, that there is a gravity, but it's not the force that you learned in school. It
Right.
has to do with density, and I spelled it wrong. It should be buoyancy, not bouncy.
Okay.
Buoyancy.
Okay.
Okay, so you can
I
laugh
just
at
want to
this.
interject real quick. I had
Yeah.
Maurice Cotterell on my show, and he does a whole thing. If you guys want to go back and look at it, he talks about gravity, and he talks about this very thing.
So what is density? Density is each object has like a density value. Okay, that's the easiest way I can think of it. Some things are denser than another. So an example that you could think about, a piece of wood, what does it do? It floats on water.
Mhm.
Why? Because it's less dense than the water. Helium, let's take that as an example. Helium just flows up into the sky. Why does it do it? Because it's less dense than the air that we're in. What Eric Dubay did is he took a balloon and he filled it up half with air and half with helium, and it just sat there like levitating. Okay. So so let's take water. So what would be heavier than water? An iron anchor. You put
Right.
an iron anchor, it's going to go to the bottom. Okay, so why are we not floating away from the earth? Because we've got air all around us and we are heavier than the air. So we're on the surface, and it's not this force of gravity, it's density and buoyancy. So that's basically the simplest way I know how to say it. That's what they talk about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, and so, we don't have a round globe where there are people on the other side. Everything's flat, and it's density that's keeping us, that's gravity. Now, there is one other element of gravity, which I'm not a scientist. I saw some great videos on it, so I'll just say the example. There is an electromagnetic field that somehow is involved with gravity and anti-gravity, okay? So I'm thinking because of this, to create anti-gravity is not so difficult. So the easiest example I can show you is they had this metal plate that they turned on the electromagnetic field. And by the way, the easiest way I can say it, if you have an electrical current, there will be a weak magnetic field around it. And if you take a magnetic bar and put coil on it and you attach wires to a light, it'll light the light up by itself. Okay, thinking free energy here, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So electricity and magnetism are always together somehow. They're always working together. It's a really powerful force. So what they did in the example I saw in the video is they had this magnetic plate, and there was a piece of paper that was on it when it was face up. Then they reversed the field, turned it upside down, and the paper stuck to it on the underside as if it was attracted to it. So
Like a
there
magnet.
right. So there's something about an electromagnetic field, which is connected to the whole Earth, that also is helping with gravity and anti-gravity. So I'm just putting that out there. You can research it more. I'm not a great scientist on this, but I know that I keep hearing the researchers say, like Corey Kell, who was the main flat Earth investigator that I spoke to, who's my advisor for the book, he told me about this, and he worked with the military. He's very scientifically minded, so something about this. Okay, so now, what the heck is this about the sun and the moon being the same size? How could that be possible? Well, in flat Earth, now I'm going to talk about one thing about this. I can't prove it. I hope I explain it as simple as possible, but I'm going to tell you what the sun and the moon really are. Okay. So first of all, they are the same size. Okay. Now we have what's called a solar eclipse. Okay. So again, on the videos I watched, somebody was showing where if there was the sun, the earth, and the moon, like, they're in this alignment, and the moon comes in front of the sun, that the moon could not possibly in that alignment totally stop all the light coming from behind it. Okay, because when we have a total solar eclipse, there's just like a little corona around the sun, and that's it. But on the heliocentric model, that would not work. Okay, so but what if the moon is the same size as the sun, and it happens, these two are rotating over the earth and the moon goes in front of it? So this could be a possible explanation for a solar eclipse.
Eclipses. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, now, if they're over the earth, they're the same size, they cannot be that big. Okay, so Eric Dubay says that they're only 32 miles across. I've heard up to 50 miles across. So they're little tiny lights in the sky. One is heat and one is coolness. I remember in some of the documentaries, they said something about if you take the temperature in the shadow of the moon, it's colder than what actually is outside in the environment.
Oh,
Like
wow.
the moon has a very cold light to it and the sun has a very hot light.
Mm.
Okay, now here's another thing that probably some people are going to have trouble believing. So according to the information, now this comes from the man I'm going to share at the very end. His name is Georgie. He says from ancient records, it indicates that the sun and the moon are only 40 to 45 miles up in the sky. And they have to be lower, obviously, than the dome. Okay, that's not so high. Okay, that's not that high, but it looks like they're big because they're not that big, and that's how far they are, and they have very, intense light that they shine. So people call them luminaries, but now here is the kicker. What is the sun and the moon? The sun is not some gaseous burning furnace, and the moon is not a solid rock. They are plasma. They are projected lights in the sky. Now, some people will say, plasma, what is that? In Star Trek, I hear about plasma injector is broke or we're venting plasma, but they never explain what the heck plasma is. So
Right.
here is what plasma is. So, we have, let's take water, for example. In its solid form, it's ice.
Okay.
In its liquid form, it's water we drink, we bathe with, we swim with, our oceans are with. And in the gaseous form, it could be steam or could be vapor, right? But
Mhm.
the next state up is plasma. So if you keep heating the element up that you're working with, it changes into plasma. So plasma is still a physical substance, but it's more like kind of light. It has different properties than the gas. And there was a scientist, I saw a video. Again, all these links, everything I'm talking about, it's going to be tons of links in the free ebook. Anything that you want to know. It's kind of similar to what Dave did in his app, but
Right.
it's talking about information first and then showing you the video if you want to watch it without knowing it, because with
Right.
timestamps, because the
Okay.
problem with videos is EYNR has a 5-hour video and an 8-hour video, and he's got really cool stuff in there. And are you going to want to go through several hours just to try to find it? Well, I timestamped it, so I'm timestamping everything. So this professor in 1965 was interviewed on television in Australia. So they had this video out all over the place. And he's saying since 1958 seems to be a key year. NASA was formed then, and the Antarctic, which we haven't gotten to yet, agreement of not letting us go there and find out what's all the mysteries they have there.
Right.
So
Yeah.
around this time, a lot of interesting things came. Said since 1958, I knew that the moon was plasma. You can never land there. All the moon landings are fake. And I have seen a video where they're stepping down from their lunar module and a panel of light hits them while they're on the ladder, showing that they were filming this. So this is what he said. He said, you can't land on the moon. And the sun also is a luminary. Now, I don't want to really get into it. There's one guy, Brian, God, I forgot his name already. It's in the book. That's why I have everything in the book, because I can't possibly remember all the names and all the situations. But let's just say he claims that there is a star outside of our environment, our world.
Okay.
It's broadcasting a light on the dome through the waters above, which I'll have to explain. And this is the light that becomes our sun. Corey Kell thinks, no, it could be an advanced machine where when an eclipse comes, something just goes right in front of the sun. It's not the moon, it's some kind of like panel. Same thing for the moon when we see the different phases of the moon. And then the other thing, but I don't want to get into it, is there could be a black sun, which we can't see, that could be doing this too. But we have to wait for the book on that because that's not too much. So this is the big revelation
Right.
about the sun and the moon, what we're talking about here and what they do. Now, the next picture I have is, again, it's from these satellites. And when I look at that, I would say the sun can't be 93 million miles away, what I'm looking at. It's a projection of a very bright light, which we call our sun, that somehow is being projected there. And the other thing that's being mentioned on the picture is there is a light spot directly underneath it. They said there's no way the sun 93 million miles away could do that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I see it. Yeah.
So it has to be a light that's kind of close. So
Mhm.
again, all these things I'm saying, fantastic, unbelievable. Think about it. Maybe eventually when I can get you the free ebook, do it, or go to Daisy app and start watching these videos. But when I look at the sun, I'm absolutely convinced it's not that far away. It's just this plasma light that's projecting this energy. And, there's so many things on the earth that the sun is a key to. Now, let's see. So now here's Corey Kell. Here's the guy that I was working with who worked in the military, and he worked with applied geometry. And so I'm going to try to summarize because, I talked to him for several hours and I was trying to simplify. What is he talking about? Why does he
Mhm.
say the sun has to be, why does he say two things, that the earth has to be flat and that the sun has to be close to the earth? So here's basically what he did. This equipment that you kind of see to your left, very precise. This is what he learned in the military. He was able to do angles of the sun. Okay.
Okay.
And what he's trying to talk about here is he would basically do 3 measurements, because if you do these 3 measurements, it covers 360 degrees. Okay, because it's a portion of that. So he
Okay.
would do 3 hours before the noon. He would measure the angle of the sun, then at noon, and then 3 hours later.
Okay.
But the bottom line is he's saying if we live on a curved surface, the highest degree the sun could be in the sky is 45 degrees. Okay,
Okay.
that's the highest it could be in the sky, because the way that the earth is shaped, it'll block. It's the same thing. The curvature will block the sun. So it could only be 45 degrees, the highest. But he's saying for flat earth, you could do a measurement of the sun and you can do much greater than 45 degrees. Now, the degrees depends upon, like as David was talking to you in the last one, he was showing you how the sun was going around the earth and it was going from the Tropic of Cancer to the Tropic of Cancer, or I think Capricorn is north and
Yeah.
Cancer is south.
Yeah.
So, and going to the equator and all this. So depending upon where the sun is as it's circling the earth, it's going to be at a different degree in the sky. But what he's basically saying, and this is from applied geometry, so this is kind of like that measurement that we were talking about. This is the gist of what I got from all his experiments, is that there is no way, he said maybe 46 degrees, giving 1 degree as an error measurement
Mhm.
for the sun on a curved surface. But he said on the flat earth, we're measuring the sun going far beyond 45, far beyond 46, like maybe high 50s, high 60s. He's seeing it in the sun. And of course, for the equator, and I think this also would be impossible too, on a curved surface, it's going to be 90 degrees above you at a certain point. Like when the sun is going around the equator at
Mhm.
noon, it'll be 90 degrees above you. That'll be the maximum amount it could be. Okay. So this is, again, needs to get into more information about what he's talking about, but I'm just mentioning him, and this is the simplest way I can explain what he's talking about. But he also says that based on the measurements of the sun too, the sun cannot be far away from the earth. It has to be close based on the angle that they're measuring the sun. So this is pure geometry, pure mathematics that he's using, and he's making sure that all his equipment is absolutely precise and level, so all the measurements are correct. And that's
Mm.
from his military training. So this is an experiment that was done. Okay, so now we're skipping and now we're moving towards back to Antarctica. So these are some images that have been taken of this ice wall, which is very huge. As a matter of fact, I remember Eric Dubé wrote an article about the history of flat Earth, and he said there was an explorer last name Cook, a British explorer, who was the first supposedly to come across Antarctica in modern times, and he couldn't find the end of it. He traveled for 8 months, keeps going around the entire circle of ice, and he could not find any opening within it. Okay. Now it's very interesting because I forget if it's 58 or 59, but somewhere around there, the United Nations, and
Right.
I think Dave may have mentioned this,
Yeah.
United Nations says we're going to forbid anyone that's not authorized from going to Antarctica. So why is that? Well, number one, if Antarctica is at the outer edge, that's totally going to disprove the heliocentric model. Totally going to disprove that. So they can't let anybody see that. And there was a video I saw where there were, very courageous people who actually used a boat and a plane and tried to go there. They were immediately intercepted by military.
Yeah.
You are not allowed to go there. This is very suspicious.
Yeah.
Now, I don't have a slide about this, but it'll be in the book. I saw another video where they were digging into the ice and they came up with a blue ice, and the blue ice has nothing to do with the clear ice. Number one, if they take it into warmer temperature, it doesn't melt, it evaporates. It is very strong. You can bend it, and they have no idea where this has come from. Could this be components of the dome? Some people have thought maybe it might be this, but it's like nothing that they've ever seen. So they have to leave it in Antarctica, or if they bring it back to the US, it'll evaporate. That's how it goes. Very strong.
Right.
So there's a real cool video on that. That'll be in the free ebook if you want to watch that. And then the other thing I'm thinking about with Antarctica is there's a book called The Iron Republic, which on Dave's last radio show I showed, he saw a picture of it. What happened is there was a man in the early 1900s or late 1800s. He went on his boat, and I'm not exactly sure which part of Antarctica went. And for some reason, they got through. They went on the other side of the ice, okay? And eventually they came to a land that they did not recognize, and they start talking to the people. And the people said, the name of our land is called the Iron Republic. And what happened is there was a magazine in Florida that printed his journals, like every issue. They printed another journal. I have to assume that these people look like us, because he didn't say anything from what I read, like, they look different. They were taller, like the Tartarians were supposed to be much taller than us. He didn't say anything about that. And they knew everything about our world. So this comes into the distinction between the known world, which is on the map I showed you at the beginning, and the unknown world, which would be everything that's outside of that wall. So in other words, and I'm going to show you very shortly that we may have evidence from the moon that there are these other lands. But I don't want to get too much ahead of myself. Right. I think people are having a hard time going with all this crazy stuff I'm talking.
Well, and then you start the question comes, and I know you'll get to it, is why this has all been hidden from us, of course.
Right. I'm going to answer that at the end. I'm going to give my 2 cents on it. Okay. So this is kind of what the ice wall looks like. 360 degrees. It's at the outer edge. And it's not clear if you go to Antarctica, if you can see the dome, not in the sky above us, but coming down on the side.
Like on the sides, yeah.
If you can see that. I think I saw one of the documents from Russia where they were talking about the dome from Antarctica, but I can't remember. So let's see what I got next. Okay, so here we have a ship, just to give you an example. And of course, this ice wall continues. It's not just a thin ice wall and there's nothing on the other side. The ice continues, who knows, for miles and miles, and they've set up bases and everything there. But you are not allowed to go there. They don't want you to see this. Okay, so now I want to go to the North Pole. So what does this map have to do with the North Pole? Okay. Oh, wait. Let's see. I'm not sure if I can do this. I want to show you something first, but I should have reversed this.
That's okay.
I'll have to come back. So, okay, I'm just going to tell you what we're looking at. So this is an old map. It's called Mccaters map. It's got
How old is this? How old is this map?
I either heard the late 1500s or early 1600s.
Okay, just curious.
All right. And actually they still use, he was so good, he was so talented that he has other maps, I believe, of the entire Earth, and they're still using them even today. Okay, because that's how accurate it was. So what we're looking at here is the Garden of Eden has been one of its names. The Tree of Life possibly could be in this region. They've talked about it. There's some ancient cultures, but definitely what Mercator is showing you, which you probably can't see very well, is there is this mountain at the center, and it is magnetic. And this is what the needle on our compasses is being pulled toward, this magnetic mountain. But the other thing that may be going on here, and I don't have time to get into it, but I'm going to get into it in the book, is there may be an opening at the top of this mountain and different frequencies of energy may be coming out of it, you know, because if you have flat Earth, like I've studied hollow Earth and supposedly, you know, there's energies coming out of the opening at the North Pole. I'm not sure, is this the same opening that they're talking about in the hollow Earth or not? It seems kind of similar or different. There also seems to be some kind of vortex. You see, there's kind of like these rivers going into it in the center.
Yeah.
It's kind of like all the water is going into, what do they call it? A whirlpool or something is here. There's people who visited. And then there are these 4 lands that are around it. Okay, this is supposed to be our North Pole. Hyperborea is another name that has been given to this. So this is what the flat earthers are saying is at the true North Pole. Okay, and this is why they don't want you going there either. They don't want you to see this. Now, there is a very strong possibility that there could be intelligent beings that might even look like extraterrestrial that are living here. I don't know. One thing that was told to me is I interviewed my friend, Dr. Phil, who channeled Helitor, who's a Pleiadian. So I'm getting into that. I just remember one comment. He said this was Atlantis. I'm not totally sure I understood why he said that, but there's supposed to be a tremendous amount of energy here. This is supposed to be like an amazing place, but nobody ever has talked about this, but it's clear as day on this map. So I'm assuming all these other lands around it could be maybe like Greenland, Siberia, with different names because they didn't know them by those names. And plus, I'm not sure he was writing in English here.
Yeah, I was trying to read it and try to figure it out because it looked like AMERI, Amera, and I was thinking, oh, is that America? And then it was like, well, and then it kind of looked like Paris, so I wasn't sure.
Right, so it's not in English.
No,
language.
it's not. It's not.
But so all I'm doing is saying this is what I found about the North Pole. And the other thing about the North Pole too that some people believe is Polaris, which is the star in the sky. It doesn't move. It's totally stationary, maybe directly over the North Pole. But there's another theory, which I don't have time to present, that it might not be. But this is supposed to be a really incredible special area. And they don't talk anything about it. And Perry, who is supposed to have gone to the North Pole and all he saw is ice, that may not be the true history. That may be their fake history to take us off. I'm not sure, because I looked at his book and I looked at his pictures and everything, and it felt totally off. I don't know what he was doing. So, okay, now this is the one I wanted to show first. So if you go to Google Earth and you look to see what's at the North Pole, that's what's at the North Pole. Dark blue color. No land whatsoever. Just this dark blue color. What are they trying to hide? No, they don't want you to see what's there. It's very simple. So I'm the one who put in the other places so you can get a feel for, you know, Canada is around there, Asia, Europe, Scandinavia, Iceland, Greenland. But they're showing nothing is there whatsoever.
Wow.
Okay, and then they tell you the planes can't go up there because it's too cold. No, the planes can't go up there because they don't want you to see what's there.
Right.
And if that map is accurate, that may be what's there. So I just thought that's really, really cool stuff.
It really is interesting.
Okay, so now we're going to go to this. What I'm about to talk to you about and show you came from a group called the Vibes of Cosmos, which is out of Greece. Okay, Iwar Anand talked about this in his first video, The Lost History of Flat Earth. Now I remembered that. Okay, so towards the end, he talks about this. Now you'll recognize this is a picture of the moon, but they've kind of flipped it. Okay, this isn't how we see it right up. They have changed the direction because they want you to pay attention to these kind of brown colored, I don't know, whatever you want to call them, but I'm going to show you what they think they are. So the people doing this, I will share what they always say is they can't verify and prove this, but this is what their evidence is showing them. So if this isn't true, this is a tremendous, tremendous, interesting theory. Eric Dubai, when I first contacted him and he gave me permission to use this material, the only comment he would make about ER&R is he didn't agree with this at all. And he found some reasons why. But anyway, I just felt inspired to show you guys. So
Okay.
this isn't my work. This is coming from Vibes of Cosmos, Sergios and Dino, and they're in Greece. So now what they've done is they've colorized these splotches to look more like land masses. Okay.
Oh, it's a reflection.
Yeah, that's right. That's what they say. So these are this is what they're saying this is. They are saying this is a reflection of the land masses on the Earth.
Well,
Now,
that's what I saw immediately, though, Joshua. That's
Okay.
crazy.
Yeah. Now, if the moon is plasma and it's not, a hard ball that's
Mhm.
reflecting light, but it's this higher vibrational frequency of matter that's able to mirror or receive the energy and mirror this image to the Earth, then this may be possible. Okay,
Mhm.
so let's take a look, zero down. Okay, so I zeroed down on the USA. So, he's got everything mapped out. It doesn't kind of look like how we're used to it, but he's mapped out the entire world on a portion of this images that you see, and I'm going to show you in the next one. But here's the USA and Mexico and Canada and South America and Brazil. He's got everything mapped out. See the Tropic of Cancer there?
Yep.
He's got the equator mapped out. So he has everything mapped out. So this is the known world, okay? But there's a caveat here. He's also showing Atlantis, which would be in the bright circle towards the left, and he's showing Lemuria, which would be down towards the right, the lower right.
Okay.
Okay, so Iwanar in his video when he talked about this, because he may say this is the only true map we have, because we don't even know what the old maps, if the so-called cabal controllers, globalists, whatever you want to call them, if they've changed those maps or they made other maps, because we don't know historically what's happening. And when I tell you the last part of my thing, you're going to think I'm really nuts.
No.
From Sergio. Yeah, I'm not even sure he's right, but I have to present it just to give us an overview. So this is the world we live in. But then if we go to the next part, what's all this other landmass? Where does that come from? So this seems to be a clue that outside the ice wall has to be more land.
Yes.
Has to be more people living there. Who are those people? Or Iwanar said it very interesting. They're not extraterrestrial, they're extraterritorial people. Okay. So in other words, we really
interesting. I like that. Extraterritorial people.
Extraterritorial people. So we really need to say our world is a realm, because we have the known world, we have the unknown world. So I kind of feel like it's more a realm than a world. It's definitely not a planet because it isn't round. Okay. So can I prove any of this? No, it's highly fascinating and interesting. They have all kinds of videos you can watch. I will have links to some of them. And these are the guys who are the only ones that gave me a fairly decent explanation how the phases of the moon happen if it's plasma. But it's too complicated for me to explain now. You really need to see their images, and it involves the sun and the black sun and all these energies and everything. And it's beyond what I have time to share. But these guys are definitely interesting. Okay, what do we got next? Oh, the extra landmass. Now this particular one here, I'm not sure if this is really correct or not, because someone in one of the Flat Earth Tartaria groups noticed that the land masses on the outer edge seem to be duplications of each other, same shape and sizes. But I still felt I have to show this because I keep feeling like we have 3 levels to our world. And outside our ice wall is more land, and then they have their own ice wall. And then outside that is more land masses and another ice wall. So there could be 3 levels. Now, Helitor, the Pleiadian I mentioned, I asked him about this, and I said, can you verify that there are other land masses? He said, yes, but that means there have to be other domes too, right?
Well, I don't know. That's what I'm wondering. Oh, you think there's more than one dome?
I think that there could be 3 domes. Okay, so we have our dome, and then there's another dome that's on top of us that encompasses the land outside our ice wall. And then there's another dome. And then all these different sections would have to have their own sun and moon. So there could be more than one sun and moon in our realm.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, these are theories, no way to prove it. Now, I do not agree, and we haven't gone to the domes yet exactly, you know, what that is. That's coming up here. But I don't agree. They have these planets placed in different domes. I think all the planets that we believe in our solar system are within our dome, and I have to explain how that's possible.
I want to say that. I think there's just my gut feeling as you show me this. I just feel like there's one dome. That's my personal intuitive feeling on this. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think there are more. But coming back to the message of Hell Tour.
Yeah.
So the people outside the other domes or the other areas are of a higher vibration. They have the ability to walk through our dome. Our domes are impenetrable for us here on this world. Okay, so now I'm going to start working on the domes and what's underneath them. Because I'm trying to give everyone, you know, like the whole perspective.
Picture. Yeah.
Okay, whole picture of what's going on.
Yeah.
So hot plasma to the left and cold plasma to the right are the sun and the moon, of course. In this diagram, and I'm not sure where he got it from, but I'm just using it because it kind of highlights things. It's showing the planets are underneath the dome. And I have to show you another picture of that. So I don't want to say exactly what they are yet. It's showing Polaris and stars outside the dome, but it's also showing something called fluided space. Like David was asked, do you know what's outside the dome? No, we don't know what's outside of them. I think what's outside the dome is what we saw in Star Trek Voyager, where this alien race invaded our space, and they came from what was called fluidic space. In other words, it was fluid, their space. It wasn't like a vacuum. And and there's problems with the vacuum being outside the dome, and a vacuum even being outside the heliocentric model. So we'll come back to that. So in this diagram, they're saying that the whole planet is an electromagnetic system. Like, for example, when we start fooling around with 5G and wireless technology, all the insects and all the animals are connected to Mother Earth, which has this electromagnetic field. And we are not only interfering with humanity, we're also connected to the Earth. I think our aura is an example of the electromagnetic field around us, you know, the spiritual aura or human aura. It affects everything. Whoever created this system, it's so advanced and sophisticated.
Well, and I just think that 5G is to hurt us. I'll just throw that out there.
Yeah, I think that's the case too. So let me think. Now, the only other thing I just want to mention, but again, I don't have time to get into it, is there's ground underneath the surface, obviously. Heltor says it's 600 miles deep. So there not only are these underground bases, which I'm sure your shows have talked about and covered, but there could be whole civilizations living under the ground underneath us.
Yeah.
Okay. And advanced beings from there. And and a lot of the ancient civilizations say there's like 4 pillars that hold it up. See, this is one of the questions I don't know the answer to. If we're on a flat, non-rotating, stationary thing, what's holding us up then? Something has to be holding us up. And I'm not sure, and I haven't found the answer to that, what that is. Unless the only possibility I can think is we're floating in fluidic space, but we're really not feeling the motion of them. Okay, because I believe that, like, you know, if we had our world here, to the left of us is another one with the dome, to the right of us is another one. There could be infinite amount of different worlds like this. And Heltor said the same thing. He said for the Pleiadians, they have a dome too. It's the same as us. It's just a higher vibrational frequency. So it's pretty interesting.
I feel like we have a dome. You know, we talk about heaven, and I feel like we have a dome, but then there is another world above us.
Well,
you know what I mean? I just want to say that really quick because that's what I feel. I don't know. Anyway, that's what I feel.
Okay, so now let's talk about what is the firmament and what is the dome. Are they the same? Some people think they're the same. I'm of a mind that they're not the same, and I'm going to give you some evidence for why I think that. Does it really
Okay.
matter? Probably not. Okay, but the key concept we've already been alluding to is that over the world is some kind of dome, but
Right.
this is an impenetrable dome. Or if I go to the bottom, Georgie called it an electromagnetic torus. The dome is impenetrable. It is a plasma shield. It repels nuclear bombs like firecrackers. In the 60s, they had secret projects that whistleblowers have talked about, where they were sending nuclear bombs up to try to create holes and openings in the dome, and they could not do it. They cannot get out, okay? They cannot get out, just like we can't get out. So if we have a dome and it's impenetrable, then how do we have extraterrestrials visiting us? I spoke to 2 Pleiadians and they told me both the same thing. Guess what? We have stargates here, dimensional portals, okay? They're coming through those, all right? But also, the lady I just talked to like a few days ago, she said that they also have the ability to come through the energy barrier. So if you're of a higher vibrational frequency, like she said, her family's 7th dimensional, and we're trying to go to 5th dimensional. She said that they have the ability, but the Pleiadians apparently are so advanced. You know, we see them coming in spacecraft, but they don't need it. They're creating everything with the power of their mind. And they're stepping through these doors, and then they have to take some kind of form so we can get them and understand them and not, you know, totally run away. So they wind up looking a little bit like us. I asked them appearance wise, yes, but they have more light around them. They're taller, you know, more spiritual. So anyway, getting back to the firmament. So I think what the firmament is, and then I'm going to go into Genesis, so it might make more sense, is it's not the dome. It's the sky, it's the stars. Genesis talks about a water above. I'm going to show you why I think there is this water above. It's the sun, the moon, the clouds, the sprites. Nobody knows about the sprites. I spelled it wrong, by the way. It's the sprite. Above the clouds, scientists took their planes and they were able to watch an electromagnetic energy, like an orange color, just manifest up there in all kinds of shapes and patterns. So again, in the free ebook, I will have a link where you'll be able to watch this. I'm thinking that those sprites are like electricity, you know, in clouds. It's coming from the dome. It's an electromagnetic charge coming off the dome that's showing up, and they only show up for a brief moment. So it's like if you don't take the picture of them right away, you could miss them. It's like within the blink of an eye almost. That's how they are. So I think our atmosphere, our sky, all that is the firmament, is the heavens, and then you have the dome. So now let's look at Genesis 1:6. So I'll just read it. Probably a lot of people have it memorized. I thought most of what the Bible said is you know, a story, fantasy. But after I start getting the flat earth, I don't believe that anymore. Let there be a firmament in the midst, which means the middle of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And God made the firmament, and he divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so, and God called the firmament heaven. Okay, so my thinking is the waters above are under the dome. Some people put it outside of the dome. I'll show you why I believe that in a second. Oh, already I'm telling you this. Okay, so now we come to the magic moment. How high up is that dome? And how do I know this? Well, number one, in an encyclopedia, I think from the 1950s, it says the dome is 73 miles high.
Oh my gosh. I love it.
There. So that will be in the free ebook.
Whoa.
You'll be able to, it said it in kilometers, but when you translate it to miles, it's 7. And there's another video, and I just watched it again before I did my talk with you, where the amateurs are sending a rocket up into the sky, and it's flying and flying and going, and it's going so fast and everything. And all of a sudden at 73 miles, it totally stops. It totally stops in the sky. How is that possible? It has to have hit something. It hit something and it stops in the sky at 73 miles. So that's where I get it. And then Georgie also said, yeah, 73 miles sounds about high. That's not that high above us.
Mm-mm.
So I've looked at, there are other videos of other rockets, and it doesn't take them that long to where they get up to where I'm going to show you the next thing. So I read the last part to you, what Georgie said. So this is what I think the dome is. It's impenetrable. It's
Mhm.
like an energy barrier, you know, like a force field. We can't get through it, not in a physical way. And maybe what Mark Sargent said is true in his interview with me, that, you know, humanity is not mature enough to go wandering out into the other worlds that exist, that we need to get our act together here. And maybe that's part of the reason what's
I
happening.
agree. I agree with that. That's that statement. Yeah.
Okay, I'm not quite there yet. This is the torus that Georgie was talking about
Oh.
around the flat earth. This may be the shape of the dome. It's a donut shape around the flat earth, but it is a toroidal field. A torus is a really powerful energy field. This is another key energy for our entire planet. So I think this came from Georgie, this picture. So,
Oh.
okay, so now the next one. Here we have a rocket they fired up, and it's spraying. What the heck is it spraying up there? There shouldn't be anything up there to spray. Could it be the waters above? Could it be the waters above? The rocket hits the waters above before it impacts the dome?
Hmm.
Okay. Now, that's one possibility. Now, I don't know. Did you see this from Dave?
No.
This was one of the most mind-blowing things related to flat Earth that took me a while to get my head around. Okay. So this is what I'm going to tell you. And there is live video. Okay. So what happens is we have these lights in the sky, right?
Right.
We have these people with these Nikon N900, 950, 1000, very powerful zoom. What happens when they start zooming in on the lights that are the planets? Do they see solid planets like NASA shows us? They do not. They see these kind of lights in the sky. They are moving, they are dancing, they are changing color, they are showing different geometric patterns like what we talk about with cymatics.
Mm-hmm.
And the other crazy thing is, it looks like we're looking at these through some kind of liquid or water.
Yeah,
When you see
possibly.
them, when you
Yeah.
see them live moving around, it looks like, you know, they're waving. You can almost see the waving pattern in these pictures. They're waving because we're looking at them through this layer of water, perhaps. So these are the two reasons. What is the rocket spraying? Is it the waters above? And what is making, you know, changing the way we see these lights? So the planets are stars. They are wandering stars because they are moving in the sky in their own pattern. They are not solid planets. They are lights. That's what people are seeing when they go with these advanced cameras. They don't see these planets. Okay. And the
That's
fixed,
super interesting, by the way, Joshua.
yeah, it's very interesting. The stars are not suns. Okay. Our sun is a light in the sky, but it is doing a different function than these lights are doing. So then when you look at the constellations in the sky, okay, which is another thing that we could say why the Earth isn't moving, because if you look at the constellations as they go around and the stars as they're going around Polaris, okay, if the Earth was in motion, okay, there are three motions that I could talk to you about from the heliocentric model. One is we're orbiting around our axis, then we're orbiting around the sun, and the whole solar system is supposed to be moving. These are three very fast motions, yet we feel absolutely nothing here on the Earth.
Right.
So this is one of the reasons we say we can't be moving, because, you know, we would be, you know, having to hold on to things. It would be like, you know, being in an earthquake where everything's moving. We don't feel anything at all. Okay. So when the people are looking up into the sky, okay, and they're not looking at the wandering stars, but the fixed stars, you know, if we were moving in space, we shouldn't be seeing the same constellations in the sky repeatedly. Okay.
Right.
If you go back in time to the people that lived 2000 years ago, okay, they're seeing the same constellations in the sky we are, which means
Mhm.
we have to be stationary. How could we possibly be moving? Or are all those constellations moving exactly at the same speed we are? That wouldn't make any sense.
Right.
So this is another reason that people have talked about that we have to be stationary. And that's why they're calling them fixed stars, because they have a fixed pattern. And like you asked me a question in an email, what about astrology and
Yeah.
astronomy? Well,
Mhm.
astrology, these stars have an energy connected to it. Now, what created these lights and these stars? I haven't found anybody that's explained it, but it seems to be energetically connected to the entire planet. s- um, Corey Kell thinks the stars may be what are feeding the energy to the sun and the moon. That could be possible. No way to know.
Right.
But these lights have their own frequencies of energy, own geometry. So I still think, you know, the way we've interpreted the planets in astrology, what they represent, that could still be
It'd
completely
still be
true.
proper. Okay.
It could
Yeah.
still be proper because it's
Okay.
coming from people who believed in flat Earth. It's
Yeah.
probably coming from Tartaria, and they knew about flat Earth. So I would say astrology is probably pretty right on. And then
Okay.
astronomy is thrown all out the board because I don't know if there are any solar systems out there. I think there are other stars that are outside. This gentleman who I'm going to share in the book about how the sun may be coming from this other star. I think there are other stars outside. They could be
Okay.
in fluided space, but are these stars not only they call them luminaries, but could they actually be alive? Could they actually be beings broadcasting energy? I don't know. But as you can see, as we're going through this, none of what the flat Earth talks about has anything to do with the heliocentric system. Let me talk about outer space for a moment and the sun, because that doesn't make any sense either. So if you have a flame in a vacuum, do you think it can exist there?
No.
No, that's right. It's impossible. So how can we have stars that are furnaces with suns, you know, which is basically a gigantic flame? How could it exist in a vacuum?
Yeah,
It
they look
cannot.
like energy. They just look like energy balls. And you know what it reminds me of now that we have the cameras, we're seeing orbs, you know, we see the energy balls, which are
It could
orbs.
be.
This reminds me of like the orbs, but on a larger scale.
Right. They definitely could be. Well, they're
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
they're alive energy. Okay.
Right, right,
What
right.
that means, I don't know. What their purpose is, I'm not sure, but they're beautiful. And they're part of the Earth. And I just don't know which stars are under the dome and which are outside the dome. Nobody seems to know that, but it's very interesting. And one last point I will make about, okay, so if we are underneath this dome, and David Weiss said this, there is no outer space. Okay, if there is no outer space, how can we have NASA spacecraft in low orbit around the Earth? We cannot. Okay, it doesn't
Mhm.
exist. So what he was trying to explain on the other radio show, and I think he mentioned it on yours, is the only way to put satellites up is you can do it with helium balloons, and they can actually carry quite a bit of weight on them.
Okay.
That's what's up there. Most of our communication systems is from our cellular towers and cables under the water or under the ground. Okay, we don't have these thousands and billions of satellites orbiting
Like
the
they
Earth.
show, like they show.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And probably if you see, well, I'll just say this one thing about NASA because I thought it was funny. So they were watching like NASA in low Earth orbit around their spaceship, and they were noticing air bubbles around them in the video. So one of the guys went to one of their conferences and said, I was watching your video that you show, and I saw around the NASA astronauts air bubbles. Can you explain? Oh, you mean inside there were? No, outside of their bodies there were air bubbles. So
Uh-huh.
no, that shouldn't be. I don't know what you're talking about, and they wouldn't go into it, but they could see that. So what they're claiming is they put them underwater so they could be floating around, like, you know, and then they do CGI of, you know, the Earth, which, by the way, there is every. What is this? And David Weiss mentioned this, and I'm going to put this in the book too. I found a graphic from the guy who was drawing all the pictures of all the planets, the blue marble,
Mhm.
and all that.
Mhm.
And he was asked to design all these planets, but you can find in the blue marble there are Photoshop mistakes.
Oh
Just
yeah,
like
I've seen that. I've
you've
seen
seen
them.
that.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I mean, we're just offering things for people to check out. you know, you have to do your own research in this. You know, a lot of this sounds really crazy, but I was blown away when I watched Iwarnar's video and he started showing these stars. I went,
Yeah.
what? They're no planets. These are just lights. This is madness.
Well, Joshua, I know I don't know where you are as far as the thing goes, but why have they done this like elaborate NASA thing, this elaborate landing on the moon, all of this? I mean, it's really elaborate. Why all of that?
The best explanation that I've heard is that on the one hand, we have Creator who's created everything. Okay.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And by the way, I think what was one of the cabal or globalist manifestos. And there were two things that they took that I remember. I can't find it. I wish I could find it so I could quote it. But I remember they kept talking about poison all the time. We'll feed them poison and then we'll give them the solution will be more poison. Does that kind of sound familiar to COVID-19 and vaccines?
Very. Yeah,
Okay.
very.
But I was surprised to read in their manifesto, they talked about Prime Creator. And this is what they said about Prime Creator, paraphrase. If people found out about Creator and Prime Creator, and that they don't have to follow what we tell them to do, okay, then everything would go crazy. So we will never mention it. Well, a lot of people think that if we are living in a flat earth with a dome and everything, this is a very sophisticated system. A superior being or beings made it, whether it's God or very advanced angels or whatever you want to call it.
Mhm.
But it's talking about a belief in God, and everything that they believe in doesn't have to do with God. It has to do with the devil or Satan. This is what keeps coming out all over like Telegram, is that this is what's motivating them. Like I just watched a video on Telegram where one of our main stars, actually a person who's been in TV shows and movies who I've respected, was born a boy and they changed her into a girl because they do everything in reverse. Okay. It's all about doing things in reverse. So we don't want to totally get into that, but the essence of it is okay, this is what
Control.
I'm hearing.
It's all control. The whole
It's
thing.
control. Heliocentric is a finite system, but looking at the magnificence of the flat earth and all these things that are connected to it is like magical, unbelievable, infinite. And the other thing that I received was they can't get out. Why do you want to admit that you're in a world that you can't get out? You're going to do everything you can to make it look like something else. So these are my two understanding about what it is. Now, my wife Katrina said, doesn't matter if we live in a flat earth or a round earth. No, we still have the same problems to deal with, but it's just another sign that everything we're being told is a lie. Our history, our world we live in is being told a lie.
Well, yeah, and it's creator. I got to get back to that because it's all about our creator, and that's what they're trying to keep us from. I really like this. This is really cool, Josh.
Okay, now these are the pictures from different cultures that seem to indicate they know that we lived in a flat earth with a dome. Okay, now this I got again from Eric Dubai, and there's even more. So I'm just showing, and then of course you have the NASA picture.
Yeah.
In the side. People say we would like to see a video of the earth from outside, you know, like the total earth. They don't have anything like that. Okay. The only thing they always show us is this or CGI or whatever. So I just felt to put this because people need to understand other cultures, older cultures have had the same idea. Okay. And again, if we come back to that woman, Ruth, why were they teaching in school in the 1920s about flat earth if there wasn't something that was true about this?
Right. Even the Navajo. I mean, it's crazy. And they're all the same.
Yeah, they have the basic same style. Okay.
Yeah, they all
Now in the north, it looks like they have this tree that's over the mountain at the top. So that's why I say there may be some kind of universal tree because the tree comes up in a lot of cultures as well. So it's interesting.
Very interesting. Yeah.
Okay, I'm almost finished here because I'm probably, oh yeah, this. So we all know what this is, right? Devil's Tower. Listen to this. A huge and startling discovery has been made at Devil's Tower in Wyoming. Scientists from the Wyoming State Parks Department were conducting photographic seismic I don't, you know what I'm saying. Readers
Mhm.
below the tower when they discovered an incredibly large petrified root system below it. Okay, so here's what's happening. Sometime in the past, the Earth was not carbon-based. It was silicon-based. And this was one of those gigantic trees that existed at that time. And there is more of them than this. Okay. And not only that, now we have to go to the next one. This leads me up to this.
I see.
Okay. Then we go to Georgie's records based on what he's reading about. So this is kind of alternative history. So again, he's saying the Earth was originally silicon-based. Now he's saying it was the Anunnaki that came here. They brought carbon because carbon was able to break down silicon into silica, but they totally mined the entire planet of all the minerals and everything. And as a result of bringing in carbon and water, they created carbon-based life that we know today. Now, if you look at Zechariah Snitzen and you look at the Sumerian tablets, they have these very tall looking people that look like us and the little people that are underneath them. So it almost seems like the Anunnaki took a part of themselves and that what may have created, you know, took their DNA and created humanity. But according, now this is the real wild stuff. I have no way to prove it. I have no idea what records is he looking at. He said that between about 77 or 7,800 years ago, the Anunnaki first created the Greys as their slaves to help them. And then only 2021 years ago, or a little over 2000, they created us. And that's when the dome was finished. So he's got a totally different bent on this. Now, I believe that what he's talking about our world being silicon-based and being mined is true. Because if you were to look at like under the oceans, what the Earth looks like, it looks like somebody mined the heck out of the Earth and then covered it up with the water.
Interesting.
So very interesting. So just another thing. So when you get into flat Earth, you're also getting into the history of the Earth as well. And then he says, based on the records, the dome on top of the Earth's surface covers it for about 400,000 kilometers. I don't know what that's in miles. And he also claims it talks about 33 continents that are outside the ice world. So really interesting.
Yeah, it really is. Oh my
So,
gosh.
so now I'm coming to my final conclusion. So if I haven't driven you crazy, if you haven't had, what do they call it? Conscientious dissociation or whatever that is, you know, if you haven't thought, well, we thought Joshua was crazy with crystal skulls, then he went to Tartaria and UFOs. Well, we could kind of deal with that, but this I don't know about. But I think that there is tremendous evidence and proof for a lot of what I'm talking about. So I think, first of all, many ancient civilizations, they knew the Earth was flat. The Tartarians, with their advanced technologies, they knew it was flat, but the Tartarians understood how to harness the natural energies that are here. It's like, you know, God built this for us and we have all these good things here that we can use to help us to enjoy our life and the whole thing. The people who think they are in charge, and I think that they're losing that control, even though Australia is continuing to get really bad right now. I heard some reports before they came on. I think that they fabricated the heliocentric model to avoid admitting, like I said, that an advanced intelligence created everything, and also because they can't get out. So this is my feeling about why they've done this. And I think you can see there are holes in the heliocentric model. Gravity doesn't work properly. The sun shouldn't be there in a vacuum, and on it goes. I do believe that, you know, if a person is open, that they will find that there is physical and scientific evidence. Oh yeah, the one other thing I didn't have time to talk about, I saw 3 documents from NASA that's going in the book. There was a person who had this website with all kinds of official government documents, 3 documents from NASA, which say in their flat, non-rotating Earth in order to talk about an experimental aircraft. I saw in Eric Dubé, when he was narrating this movie, great movie called Level, he showed a document from the airline pilots. It says in there in section 1.1.2, the Earth is flat. The Earth is non-rotating, as clear as day. first 2 points in that section. So there are documents, but the problem is that how do you find these documents? Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, so I believe that there is proof and evidence that the sun and the moon and the stars, they're all under the dome. There is no outer space. Only helium balloons can fly these satellites above us. There were no moon landings or visits or other so-called planets in our solar system. And I do believe outside the dome are other similar worlds and the waters or fluided space or whatever. I think in the near truth, we'll know if everything that, let's call it, I don't consider myself a flat earther researcher. I'm just a writer in this. I'm interested in the subject. But these experts who've been studying it for years, I think eventually they're going to have the absolute truth about the world of our realm. They're going to show that all these things they're talking about is true, what our true history is. Our spiritual nature will know, because it's very important to combine our spiritual with our physical. We'll have contacts with other intelligences of which we may be their children. Like I asked the Pleiadian I spoke to last week, do we have in our DNA some Pleiadian? She said, yes, you do. So we're actually connected to them in their family. So that's my flat earth presentation. This is just, information about us. csc.crystalskullexplorers.com is our main website, all our books and things. If you want to get the free ebook I'm writing on
What do they
Earth,
do, Joshua?
just send an email, crystalskullexplorers@gmail.com, and put in the subject, just say, send me flat earth, and I'll know it's from Nancy Show.
Okay.
And you want to get on my list. I only have a short list. I couldn't believe how many people got the Tartarian book. Probably like about 400 or 500 people asked it from me. I sent it out, each one to the people via email. And then of course we have 4 other free ebooks, which if you write to me, I can tell you about what those are.
Joshua, I want one. I want an ebook. So send me one. So it's done. It's finished. It's ready to be sent out right now.
No, of course not.
Oh, when's it going to be done? When are we going to have it? In November? You said, well, we are in November, but when do you think though?
I'm thinking earliest would be late November, maybe December. Now, here's why I think I'm being delayed though. And again, I can't prove this. I think our internet is going to go away and we're going to get replaced with another one. So if I put all the videos and the books and everything up there, it's going to be wiped out. I'm going to have to do it again. So I think I'm being delayed. Now, is this something that could happen like in the near future? I don't know. They're talking about it. I think the whole key to it is the emergency broadcast system they keep talking about. When that comes out, then the new internet's coming out, the med beds are coming out, the new financial system's coming out, all this advanced technology to help humanity's coming out. So I do have 2 last points to say. If you want to handle what's going on now, and I know that not everyone is as lucky as Katrina and I. For some reason, our situation, we're not really under any pressure, financial or in the area we live, they're not locking it down or whatever. So spirit must have moved us here. Although I never would have thought Georgia would be a place for this, but it is. But these are the 2 keys I recommend for people to deal with the craziness that's going on. Number 1, the Pleiadian I talked to, Hell Tour, I have a free ebook, Messages from Argus. I have 2 personal experiences. Everything points me. Gene Decode, who I've talked to, you've talked to him, he says the same thing. All of this points to that we're headed to a new heaven and a new earth, total peace and total harmony. Most of us can't see how we're going to get from the madness going on, where in Australia they're stopping people from even getting into their banks now because they haven't been vaccinated.
Oh no.
Yeah,
I haven't heard that.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm concerned, to be honest with you, is that here in the United States, they're rolling out the vaccine for the children. And I just don't want that to happen. That is really scaring me.
Right.
Actually,
So
Joshua.
this is the keys I can recommend to do. Number 1, see this positive future every day. Like, whenever you have free time, just go in your mind and go, how nice it would be to wake up and there's love, energy all around. I mean, some people would say Joshua's out of his court, but there are places that exist that have this, and there's no reason why the earth can't have this. So, or, you see your neighbor and you don't know him, but you hug them and you start singing and dancing together because you're so happy and joyful for being alive and being in this wonderful, amazing planet. So visualize in your mind, what would that be like? And see it every day. And just know that one morning you're going to wake up and that's what you're going to see. What morning that's going to be, it doesn't matter. It's in process. Looking Glass has said we're headed towards a peaceful future too. It's the only timeline that it's showing right now, if you research that. The Pleiadians said 2030 to 2032 we'll get everything together. Well, it's not going to happen overnight, because a lot of people are going to be shocked that all of this stuff that I thought was true, it's not true.
It's not, I know. The whole history of our world.
Right. Everything's going to have to be re-educated. So it's going to take a number of years to ease into. Of course, all these advanced children being born out, they'll just, oh yeah, that's right. That makes perfect sense. I get it. I get it. I get it. The kids will get it. But the other point of it is just say no. Just say no. In other words, if there's something presented to you, whatever you have to do, say no if it doesn't feel right. Don't take the vaccine if you have to go and lose your job because unethically what they're doing. It's the same thing that happened to me. I quit a high-paying job with computers many, many years ago, and I didn't know how am I going to survive or make it. But God is the source of all things. How do you know there isn't some magnificent door waiting that you have to close the old one till the new one shows up? So, but I really think that major things are going to happen. The other interesting thing I've seen on Telegram is the place to go to find out what's really. People are seeing really weird things in the sky. I don't know if this is spacecraft. The sun is doing strange things. People are seeing two suns in the sky. I don't know what's happening, but for me, every time if there's something weird in the sky, it's a sign of major changes getting ready to happen. So I just know we're headed in that direction. Just go day by day, see the beautiful world that we're moving toward, and just say no. And it will be all fine. We're in a big movie right now. And of course, we know one side is trying everything they can to get everybody to do the vaccine, whatever, but there's the white forces are in place and God's will is in place. And I just know it's not going to happen. So
I agree.
So hopefully all this stuff I said on Flat Earth made sense. I tried to explain it as simple as possible. So
you did a great job, Joshua. Thank you. I just want to thank you. It took you a lot of time and effort to put all this together. I know it's taken you several months to, put all this together, and we're really looking forward to the ebook. I'm really looking forward to the ebook. I think it's great.
If it's good, it's going to have pretty much everything in there. So, and you just go through it the level that's comfortable for you. Like if you're really interested in the sun, there'll be a section on the sun. If you want to know about the moon from the flat earth, there'll be a section there. So that's how I'm doing it, and tons of links to videos.
Awesome. You know what I'll do, Joshua, when it does come out, you can let me know, and then I can put a link to it and I can let the audience know so that they can go ahead and email you and get their free ebook.
Okay.
Thank you. I can't thank you enough. If people have questions, you guys, you're welcome to email Joshua. Is that okay if they do that?
Yes. And also look for Dave's the clock app that he has on Flat Earth. That's really good too.
Yeah.
So that's
Dave's
another reason.
App.
So go back to the October interview with Dave Weiss, and he has a way that you can get that app, because I didn't know what it did, and then he was showing it, and I was amazed. He's really put a lot of time into that.
Well, and God came to him and asked him to do this. So I just want to say that was divinely, Dave Weiss, his Flat Earth thing, just like you, is divinely guided, Joshua. Same thing.
Well, I just remember last year, I just said, I want to know the truth. And so Tartaria shows up and Flat Earth shows up. And if you told me last year I would be doing that, I would say, no, I'm not interested. I don't have time. This one book is very, very time intensive, that's for sure. But I'm going to do my Aries thing, everything I can. So even the kitchen sink will be in there probably.
Okay. Well, God bless. And we thank you. And we just want to thank everybody for joining us today. I know it's been a long show, but it's been well worth it. Joshua Shapiro, thank you so much. Everybody, this is Nancy Earl. This is High Road to Humanity. And we will see you next time. Everybody take care and God bless.
Connect the dots and keep the motion. Can achieve your goal. Let's hit the high road.
Hey, you guys, join me next week on The High Road for more stories filled with wisdom, love, and hope for our future. Have a fabulous week, and know that by staying on the high road, you will make it to your destination. Visit my website, nancyyearout.com, where you can book a private session to learn how to tap into your own abilities. And check out my YouTube channel. It's Nancy Yearout's High Road to Humanity.
You can achieve your goals.